Welcome back. Part 2. Eliza. Things things she loved. The diner's famous chicken with homemade noodles, Greer's smile, seeing a whole field of ripe wheat spread across the prairie, the scar on her dad's left pointer finger from a dog bite when he was a kid, the sound of cicadas on a hot summer night, watching Travis throw a perfect pass, the musty sweet smell of her family's grocery store, decorating the Christmas tree, and knowing the story of each ornament, listening to her mom hum while she folded laundry, sliding down the banister instead of taking the steps. Ludlow. Things she hated. Meatloaf, mosquitoes, stock in the freezer section of the store, algebra homework, the smell in the house when her mom made pickles from scratch, Travis cracking his knuckles, the look on his dad's face when she did something to disappoint him, turtlenecks, when people didn't close their mouths all the way while they chewed, hurting Greer, even when it was for her own good. Okay. Chapter 8. Because a morning spent in Merle's company hadn't been shitty enough, I asked Dean to drop me off within walking distance of the grocery store instead of down the street from my house. I figured now was as good of a time as any to get it over with, but I still wasn't fully prepared when I stepped into the new and improved store for the first time. Growing up, we spent the summers bitching endlessly about the lack of air conditioning in the store, dragging ourselves around the aisles like we were being tortured and standing dramatically in front of a box of fans our dad kept whirling in the corner. According to him, the lack of air conditioning built character, but I always suspected his resistance had been more to do with not wanting to change the fabric of the building, a need to keep things as they always had been, even as Ludlow slowly withered away around us. The new owners had no such qualms apparently. There was no real need for air conditioning in October, even on an unseasonable warm day. But even so, the second I walked through the sliding doors, artificial cold slapped me in the face. I know from a quick drive-by that things were different now, but I hadn't expected it to be virtually unrecognizable. I stopped in my tracks, a tiny "oh" gusted out of me. Gone were the old chip black and white porcelain floor tiles where Eliza and I had played endless rounds of hopscotch. Gone were the built-in wooden shelves that had lined the far wall, hand-carved by our great-grandfather and stained and restained through the generations until they had taken on a patina of old leather. Gone was the single checkout line sand conveyor belt, behind which our dad had perched on a swivel stool and chatted up each and every customer who came through the door. I always loved our house, but this store, more than any place else, had been where my childhood lived. And now it was a stranger to me. Everything was shiny and new and clean and horrible. I could have been anywhere or nowhere at all. I forced myself to walk forward, down an aisle full of cereal boxes, prices neatly computer generated and stuck to the shelves. There was more variety, but less of what people in Ludlow probably wanted. No Honey Smacks, specially ordered for Laverne Wells, who swore she couldn't start the day without a bowl. I wonder what she did for breakfast now. Maybe do Cheerios or Frosted Flakes, I guess. At the end of the aisle, I took a right, walked over to the frozen food section, eyes already searching the tiny sliver of wall between the last freezer and the swinging door that led into the storeroom. It had been repainted. Of course it has. The moss green replaced with a more suitable cream. I ran my fingers over the spot anyway. Imagine I could feel the slight depression where Eliza and I had carved our names with our dad's Swiss Army knife the summer she was 12 and I was 10. Eliza had been reluctant, a rule follower to her core. So I'd gone for first, carving out the letters with a heavy hand, giddy with laughter as the plaster scraped away. Dad won't care. It's our store, I said when I was done, holding the knife out to her. She'd given in, like she usually did when I wanted something, but her name had been cramped. The letters even in her rush to finish. As it turned out, our dad had cared. Extra freezer stocking duty and an afternoon of the silent treatment, but not enough to paint over our vandalism. It had taken the new owners for that to finally ensure. I pressed harder knowing we were long gone, but telling myself I could still feel us there, right below the surface. When it came to entertainment around Ludlow, there weren't a lot of choices for teenagers. If you were sick of the diner and the town park, you were left with illegal scaling the fence of an abandoned refinery for a night of vandalism, or cheap beer, a game of mini golf on the neglected course behind the library, or paying $15 a carload to watch decades out-of-date movies at the drive-in. The only other choice, drag racing out on Popular Lane, had been sadly curtailed with the addition of speed tables my senior year of high school. Now that we were adults, we could add a night at the do to the list. What? We could add a night at the do to the list, but I wasn't sure I could handle another round of stale peanuts and questionable company so soon after the first. The drive-in was the winner this evening, and the three of us had made ourselves comfortable in the bed of Cassie pickup, leaning back against pillows propped up behind us. Me in the middle, Cassie on my left, clutching an industrial-sized vat of popcorn, and Ryan on my right, holding a bottle of whiskey. A blanket pilfered from his mom's sofa spread across our legs. We assumed our regular spots like no time had passed. Did people who grew up in bigger, more populated places have friends like these? Ones to whom they were bound so tightly it felt like nothing could undo the teeters? Your lives interwoven through every nook and hidden away cranny? Maybe in those places friends drifted in and out, old faces replaced with new ones as the years scrolled by. But in Ludlow, the kids you met the first day of kindergarten were the same ones you graduated next 2 years later. Hardly ever a new face in the crowd. So, if you were lucky enough to find one or two who understood you, accepted you, loved you through all your various flaws and questionable phases, you hung on as hard and as long as you could, until eventually you would no longer be you without them. Let me guess, I said, reaching for a handful of popcorn. Back to the Future? Ryan made a buzzing sound. Wrong. Halloween. The new owners like a theme, and nothing says October like a bloody knife. Or a loaded gun, I thought, but didn't say. Tomorrow they're showing Friday the 13th, Cassie said. We figured Michael Myers beat out Jason. Solid choice, I said, talking around a mouthful of popcorn. Excuse me. They show a different horror movie every night of October. The former owners, sticklers about their offering being family friendly, hadn't allowed horror movies at the drive-in at all. Ryan shook his head. No, only the 2 movies in rotation for an entire month. They wouldn't want to dazzle anyone with too much variety. This is Ludlow, after all. We're easily overwhelmed. Cassie held out her hand for the whiskey, and Ryan passed it to her. No thanks, I said, when she offered me a swig. Suit yourself, but alcohol may be the only way we survive this. She adjusted her pillows, then crammed the popcorn bucket between our outstretched legs. On the drive here, I'd considered telling them about what Dean and I were doing, but I couldn't find a way to make it sound less insane than it probably was. But while I might not be ready to come clean, that didn't mean I couldn't pick their brains a bit. Hey, I said, did you guys think anything was going on with Eliza the summer before she died? The whiskey bottle stilled on the way to Cassie's mouth. Wow, that came out of nowhere. You never talk about Eliza or what happened. She paused. Not anymore. That's not an answer. It's not an answer, Ryan said, but it's facts. What's going on? Nothing really, I said. I smell bullshit. Ryan kicked my foot with it. Cassie? Yes, she said. I too smell manure of some kind. Okay, you assholes, I said, laughing. I think being back here is all front and center again. I can't stop thinking about that summer before. That wasn't a lie. Every face I saw, every familiar scent and sound dragged me backwards. I knew it was where I needed to go, but some part of me still resisted, scared of what would be revealed. What about? Cassie asked, brows furrowing. I don't know whether I missed something, whether Eliza was acting different. I don't know about Eliza, Ryan said, but you were off your game. I turned to look at him. What? No, I wasn't. You totally were. You ghosted the shit out of us that summer. Heat climbed up my neck into my cheeks. I did not, and ghosting wasn't even a thing back then. Ryan rolled his eyes. I'm pretty sure the concept was alive and well. I glanced at Cassie, eyebrows raised. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was you who was MIA that summer, not me. What are you talking about? Cassie said, throwing a handful of popcorn at me. No, Ryan said. Don't pelt her with our food. She's not wrong. Now that I think about it, both of you pulled a disappearing act that summer. Left me by my lonesome where I was forced to hook up with Hope Turner at the pool just for something to do. God, Cassie said, your standards have always been shit. And for the record, that was the summer I was dating Samantha Leary on the sly. That's why I wasn't around as much, remember? Oh, how could I forget? Ryan groaned. Hey, Cassie protested. The drama was her, not me. I think it was both of you, I said. Back then, Cassie had been a fan of the kind of relationship that swung between true love and pure hatred. No middle ground. She never ended anything gracefully. There was always tears and fights and doomed second chances. And she always picked girls who had the same penchant for excessive feeling. Maybe, Cassie said. She took it a step too far, though, when she accused me of slashing her tires. Crazy bitch. But in answer to your earlier question, Greer, I think Eliza was the same as always that summer. Yeah, Ryan agreed. I don't remember anything unusual. He paused, giving me a quick glance before he continued, like he was worried about my reaction. Remember the night we all came here at the end of that summer? Our last hoorah before school started again? Oh my God, I've forgotten about that, Cassie said. I had too until Ryan reminded me. We come to watch Grease. Ryan, Cassie, and me in one car, Eliza, Travis, and a few of Travis' friends in another. Halfway through the movie, Eliza had clambered out of Travis' car and come over to ours. Too many boys? They talk over the music, she said, by way of explanation, hauling herself up and landed between Ryan and me, settling in a way she had when we were younger, and she crashed our sleepovers. She sang every song, Ryan said, wincing, right into my ear. Her voice was so fucking bad. So bad, Cassie agreed with a small smile, but she didn't let it stop her. Their tone was quite quiet, careful, like they were stepping over landmines, not because it was hard for them to talk about Eliza, but because they were worried about me. It made me wonder how often they talked about her when I wasn't around, and felt strangely jealous about missing out on memories I could hardly stand to hear. Okay, everybody, shut up, Cassie instructed. The movie started. I settled back against my pillow, leaned my head on Ryan's shoulder. "Don't mind me," he said. "Make yourself comfortable." But he scooted a little closer so I didn't tweak my neck. I zoned out as Michael Myers started his reign of terror on the screen and Ryan and Cassie passed the bottle back and forth across my lap. The drive-in was only half full and I let my eyes skate over the cars. A lot of pickup trucks and older model minivans stuffed with kids way too young to be watching this movie. A white SUV with rust on the passenger door. I raised my head, peered through the gathering gloom. Was that Dean's car? As I watched, the driver door opened and the man of the hour hopped out, threading his way through cars towards the center block building that housed the concession stand and the restrooms. "I'll be right back." I pushed myself forward to slide off the end of the pickup bed. "Gotta use the bathroom," I said as at Cassie's questioning look. "Grab some Twizzlers while you're over there," she yelled as I walked away, and I waved my hand over my head to let her know I heard. When I got to the concession line, Dean was the only one there, leaning on the counter and waiting for the kid behind it to hand him a hot dog. "Hey," I said, sliding to the space next to him. "If I didn't know better, I'd say you were following me." Dean glanced at me, surprise written all over his face, and before he could respond, I held up both hands. "I have no idea why I said that. That was dumb. God, sorry, ignore me." "I promise I'm not following you," he said, "although it might be worth it to listen to you stumble over your sentences." Ha ha ha. I pointed at the Twizzlers and pushed some cash across the counter. "You're a fan of drive-in?" "Not really. Some nights I need to get out of the house and this is somewhere cheap to go where no one will bother me." He took a bite of his hot dog. Gourmet food is only a side benefit. Without discussing it, we started walking on the path that wound behind the last row of cars. For anyone to notice us, they'd have to turn around, take their eyes off the movie, where currently Jamie Lee Curtis was blissfully getting ready for a night of babysitting with no idea what awaited her in the dark. "People bother you?" I asked, although I already knew the answer, remembering the dew and how the air turned thick with malice the second Dean walked through the door. He signed. "The usual bullshit. I'm sure you can imagine. Guys getting in my face wanting to fight me, and girls are either scared of me or all over me. It's bizarre as shit, and I don't know which reaction is worse." He ran a hand through his hair. "The whole world looks at me, and all they see is my brother." "Do you ever think about leaving?" I asked. "Going someplace where nobody knows you?" Although I understood as well as anyone that leaving a place behind didn't always mean you escaped it. He gave me a grim smile. "All the time." We walked in silence for a few seconds. The light from the movie screen drifted over our faces. "If you're free tomorrow, I had an idea of someone else we could talk to," Dean said as we neared the last row of cars. "Roy's girlfriend, Libby." I stopped walking. "Roy had a girlfriend?" Dean nodded, slow to stop beside me, and held up a finger while he finished chewing his last bite. "So to speak. They were off and on the 6 months before the murders." "I don't remember her from the trial. She didn't testify, did she?" "Nope. And I doubt she knows anything. But figure it's worth a try. If she'll even talk to us. She's not my biggest fan." "Why's that?" I asked, distracted, still trying to wrap my head around the idea of Roy Matthews and a girlfriend. "I dated her first. Not for long, but it didn't end well. When she hooked up with Roy, I always suspected it was to get back at me. I couldn't have cared less except I didn't like her using him. He was so glad a girl was paying attention to him that he couldn't see what bad news Libby was." "First Merle, now Libby," I said. "You're going to spoil me." Dean's smile flashed flash of white here and then gone. He tossed his hot dog wrapper into a nearby trash can, shoved his hands into the front pockets of his jeans. Okay, well, I'm over there, I said. He nodded. I'll see you tomorrow then? Yeah, I said, turning toward Cassie's truck. Tomorrow. I took a few steps, looked over my shoulder, but Dean had already melted away into the darkness. I expected my parents to be tucked away upstairs by the time I got home from the drive-in, but a dim light was burning from the living room window, and when I climbed the front steps, I was greeted by the shape of my father slumped on the porch swing. Dad? I said, not really expecting a response. He was snoring lightly, his mouth hanging open. I had a sudden urge to kick the swing, startle him into wakefulness. Instead, I sat down next to him, leaned my head back on the swing with a sigh. Out on the lawn, the first brittle fall leaves pinwheeled across the grass, blown by a sharp October breeze. Nothing else moved. Everything was silent and bathed in darkness. It should have felt peaceful, serene, but tensions nestled at the base of my spine, a hot rock of watchfulness I couldn't ease. I went to the store, I said. They've changed everything. It used to be my favorite place in the whole world, and it's just gone. My voice broke, and I blinked rapidly until my eyes stopped stinging. Remember when we used to be happy? I looked at my father, his permanent old haggard face, and wondered how much more he could endure. I would have given anything to have one more Father's Day with him, back when Eliza and I would pool our money and take him out for lunch at the diner. The three of us lined up at the counter, me on his left, Eliza on his right. Every year, we'd order more than we could possibly eat. Fried chicken, loaded baked potatoes, milkshake, 3 of Mabel's cinnamon rolls. Afterward, we'd walk home clutching our stomachs, swearing the next year, we chose some restraint. And even though it was Father's Day and we were meant to be celebrating him, our dad would always end the outing by listing all of the ways he was lucky to have us for his daughters. Eliza's reliability and tender heart, my stubbornness and reckless enthusiasm. No matter what he said, I'd known that Eliza and I were really the lucky ones. I could never have imagined back then that someday he would sit next to me and feel like a stranger. I'm sorry, Daddy, I whisper. I wish I could undo it, make things how they used to be. At the corner, a patrol car appeared, idling even though there wasn't a stop sign. It was too dark for me to see who was driving, but I pictured Garrett behind the wheel, checking up on me. Tiny goosebumps prickled my arms for no reason I could name, and I leaned back, hiding in the shadows of the porch. I watched as the patrol car turned left, away from my house. Engine, a low purr in the night. Next to me, my dad stirred, pulling my attention as he made a snuffling exhale. Greer? He rasped. What time is it? I don't know. After midnight? He squinted at me. Where's your sister? Is she home yet? I told Travis not to keep her out too late. I inhaled sharply, strangely jealous that even for a moment he got to believe Eliza was alive and nothing had changed. She's dead, remember? My voice was flat and hard. My dad didn't respond. His eyes fluttered closed and he sank back into oblivion. And out on the street, the patrol car cruised quietly by. And that's the end of chapter 8. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning where Eliza, the insert for Eliza, and I want to know what she meant when she said the thing she hated, and when she said hurting Greer, even when it was for her own good. What could she possibly mean by that? Hurting Greer, even if it was for her own good. Okay, so that tells me that there's a story Greer need to let us know about, right? So we need to know what really the relationship between Eliza and Greer. So I hope they give that perspective so we can know what she mean by that. So, and also Garrett, why is he riding past her house? Do he know that her and Dean are like investigating the murder of her sister and Travis? Okay, so there we have it. I'm gonna have to see y'all in the next chapter. Bye for now.